Hello, my name is Nestor Leon, and I am taking microbiology, and this is in relationship with for pre-sciences courses. So we're going to talk a little bit about pure culturing and the reason why we do it, and the methodology involved as to why we utilize this technique when we're actually taking any kind of sample, but in my microbiology, we talk about bacteria. So we can use pure culturing in a way that, let's say, we have a sample of bacteria from a source of a population, and we are going to take small samples, and we're going to utilize those samples and put them in a dish plate, and basically to separate them and create some kind of inoculations to find out what kind of bacteria is found. Some of those techniques that we are going to utilize can be the quadrant technique, but we're going to concentrate more on the T-streak plate technique when we actually take our sample from a pure culture population, and we want to determine what kind of bacteria is growing on that surface. And it can be in any surface. It can be on the table, it can be in a urine sample, it could be on a skin sample. And it's very important that we utilize these methods to basically find out what's growing, okay? And from that, we can kind of speculate by the diagnostic of what the bacteria looks under a microscope and the growth and everything else, that we can find out what kind of bacteria is in you, and we can start giving you medication to cure that. So, a quick synopsis of what I'm talking about is basically, so imagine, first of all, you're going to utilize fire and flame to create some kind of a sterile field. So obviously it's very important. We're going to use our Bunsen burner. It's going to be lit up very high, and normally about the blue flame, where we can kind of take the sterile rod tool, and first thing we're going to do before we kind of draw any kind of sample is create a sterile field. So we're going to go ahead and burn it all the entire wire rod. We're going to burn it, create some kind of sterilization, eliminate any bacteria that's maybe present there. Okay. Then we're going to move into taking the rod, and we're going to use, let's say, whether it's the ground or some kind of test tube, and we're going to collect the sample. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and dip it in, move it around. Once we collect that sample, okay, we're going to take that sample into a petri dish. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and kind of mark a isolated area, okay, and that's basically going to be our first area where we're going to place kind of like just a colony, okay. So once we do that, we're going to go ahead and close up the petri dish, make sure our area is always sterile, it doesn't get contaminated by anything else, okay. So now we have basically our pure sample that we can utilize to compare. So I know we mentioned something about the T streak sample. So imagine this being a petri dish, okay? And in our head, we're gonna go ahead and convert this into like a T, if you can see it as a T, okay? So what we can do is basically, let's say, imagine this is a clean, sterile, clean rod. It's already been sterile and whatnot through a Bunsen burner, okay? And we're gonna go ahead and mark it with our sample, okay? And burn it. And basically just create like some streaks here, okay? And then get another one that's clean, all right, and sterile. And we're gonna go up and down. Then we're gonna get another sample, and we're gonna mark it here, okay? Another clean rod, and mark it here. So now we created an area, okay, before we put in our sample bacteria that we want to test out, okay, and we created a T-streak plate, okay, and we're going to close that up, make sure it's not cross-contaminated, okay. And I just kind of quickly want to highlight here, basically, this is the a picture of a quadrant plate streak, and as you can see, the samples of, you start with this kind of motion, then you rotate the plate 45 degrees, You go up and down, you rotate the plate, you go this way, and then you rotate the plate once again going this way. So eventually, there are different many techniques out there to create basically inoculations before you start any type of inoculation plates. Okay, so it's very simple. The biggest thing you need to take apart from this is that everything needs to be sterile. You cannot cross contaminate any kind of sampling from one to another. Okay, and then the biggest thing is also the inoculation period. How long you're just going to let it grow. Okay, and that can be determined by the type of experience that you want to test out. Okay, once you have your data, then you do a comparison analysis, and you can determine what kind of bacteria is growing, and you can determine if it needs, let's say, like you're testing out for bacteria in your urine. Okay, under the microscope later on, it can be found, hey, you have such and this bacteria, and a medication can be given to you, or the specific antibiotic. Okay. All right. So hopefully this was a brief synopsis of what we're talking about for pure culturing, and you found it informative. Thank you. Goodbye.